I'm going to very soon handing over, but I would like to, my role is here to welcome you as PI of a research project that is sort of organizing these returning webinars. They are webinars with a difference. And I'm Karin Murres, for in case people here who don't know me. Yeah, I don't think anyone. Hi, Rogers. Haven't seen you for a while. Good to see you. I'm here, for people who don't know, I'm here in Madeira, spending some time with my family here. And absolutely delighted that Mirka, Koro, and Jayne Osgood have agreed to do a webinar with a difference. And what we thought would be really nice is the returning is, of course, a post-qualitative method anyway, where we don't necessarily just present research that we're doing, but it's also a returning to what we've done before, but also diffracting through work that others have done and creating new insights, new ideas. And it's very experimental, it's very informal. We don't hope, we hope people don't feel that they have to do endless preparation for it. So if you also have ideas that you would like to present at these returning webinars, please feel free. So the idea of the post-qualitative research project is that we, as members of this collective, as friends of this collective, we get to know each other better through these kind of meetings. Because of course we're very limited in real meetings, like going to conferences. So this is a bit like, the kind of more informal meetings as well that people don't engage with, but each of them, there's no template. Each of them could be very different. So obviously this is again very different from the one that Roseanne led last time, the first time, which was PhD researchers sharing their experiences of post-qualitative research. And so each of you can come up with a complete different idea for these webinars. Anyway, I don't want to take up more time. Just to say a little bit about our presenters, and I haven't seen them diffracting through each other's work either, so I'm really excited. So I've got to know Jayne Osgood in lots of different ways, especially her expertise in early childhood and in gender. And we are at the moment involved also in a project for the GCRF in southern sub-Saharan Africa on African childhoods and indigenous games and digital gaming. She's also leading the Center of Educational Research Scholarship at Middlesex University, which I also joined her a few times for these presentations. So our paths cross in lots of different ways and very, very exciting ways. We're also running a special issue at the moment. So welcome again, Jayne, to this community. And of course, you're also a member of the post-qual research group. And Mirka, I also know for quite a while, and of course, always been very, very interested in your incredible scholarship and innovative work in post-qualitative research at the, oh, I forgot to say, actually, Jay, you're at Middlesex University. I think I might have said it, I can't remember, in London. And Mirka is in Arizona, it's on the other side of the pond. And they're heading the academic program, doctoral program. And at the moment, the University of Oulu is affiliated, it's connected with the University of Arizona. So we're doing all sorts of very interesting projects together in a doctoral program, but also in early childhood and in other areas. So, and Mirka is also co-editor of the, what was it called again? The encyclopedia, the Routledge Encyclopedia of Qualitative Research Methods. And so she's my partner in crime there, and I'm really pleased and happy about that. So if either of you want to say a little bit about yourself that you might like everyone in the group to know as well, the friends and the members of this post-qualitative research group, then this is your moment. You might like to do a plug for the feminist materialist that you run, the webinars and the whole project, Jayne. And I know that Annika is, as I'm speaking, putting all sorts of links up in the chat. And thank you, Annika, for people who don't know. Annika is the research assistant, amazingly so, and also of this project, but also has been working quite recently on updating the post-qual research website. So please also have a look, and she's putting up a link there. So first of all, Jayne, would you like to say a little bit more about what you would like people to know about you and your work and what excites you at the moment?
Yeah. So I think, COVID living has meant that much of what we do has gone online. And whilst that's been a challenge, I think it's also meant that our networks have kind of proliferated and spread out in really interesting and confederate ways. So one of the things that I've been doing over the past year is the Fem Materialism Feminar series, which is a monthly meeting of feminist post-qualitative researchers bringing their work to others through practical doings, through feminist praxis. So that's really exciting, and everybody's kind of welcome to come along to those. We mostly use Facebook as our platform for notifying people, and we have a kind of lively membership, but it kind of connects in many interesting ways to the work that's going on here. And then, as Karen mentioned, the Centre for Education, Research and Scholarship has a lively seminar series, which again is online and open access. So there's all sorts of exciting things, but I am very much looking forward to seeing people in real time in the same place, in the same time zone. That would be wonderful.
Okay, thank you, Jayne. Mirka?
I'm not sure there's much that I need to add. I wanted to mention that Carol and I and our team, Crazy Gang, just published a book about disturbing academic conference machine, which is kind of the take on a critical look, but also a creative look to think about conferences differently. That has been one of our biggest projects for past year. We have been doing all kind of interventions in the conferences. Hi, Carol. And,
Hi, Mirka.
I just saw that the book actually literally came out, but it hasn't reached the Phoenix area yet, but other parts of the country, the world, I guess.
I have the book on my table in front of me as we're speaking. It looks very beautiful.
Yeah, that's great. And then I also have had interesting, it kind of also returnings with my colleagues here at Arizona State. We have been thinking about pluriversity in the context of university and what does multiplicity look like. And multiplicity that is extremely open-ended and welcoming. So that has been an interesting project. Students have done a lot of provocations, colleagues have done. Carol also have contributed to that, and many of my colleagues. So thank you everybody for doing that. But yeah, that's about it. It's early in here, so I'm a little kind of still, but good.
Okay, fantastic. Because this is not just doing plugs for our work, but it is also, as I said at the beginning, really getting to know each other better. And what kind of work are we involved with? So please do put links to the book. I had just checked, and I haven't seen it in the chat yet. Please put all these links, and also if it resonates with something that you in the room have just done or are excited about or about, please also put it in the chat. We will record. I haven't discussed this with Annika, but Annika, if we can save the chat and then also put that up so that people have all these links later on. So welcome again to people that have just come in a bit later. Please don't forget, I'd almost forgot myself, to wear your mask for this particular meeting. But yeah, let's not wait any longer. I'm just going to hand over and I'm going to mute myself. So thank you again, for making the effort, and really looking forward to your session.
And thank you, Karen, and everybody organizing. This is exciting space to be in. So please put your, as Karen said, please put your masks on. We are wearing them for a purpose. All right. Anything,
Okay.
Jayne, you want to mention about the first slide?
Yeah, so first of all, welcome. And as Karen has already said, the returnings is kind of echoes Berard's invitation to think about things constantly in process, back and forth. And in the top right-hand corner of this slide is the QR code to the Padlet, and we will be using Padlet later on. So if you hover your phone camera over that QR, if you don't already have Padlet app on your phone, it should invite you to load it onto your phone and take you to the Padlet page that we'll be using throughout the session. So I can't remember how we carved this up, Mirka.
Yes, no, we can go to the next slide. So I can start, Jayne, and then you can kind of fill me in. So the disposable masks. So we were thinking that the role of the mask has been such significant during the past year and a half, and the masks are still with us in so many different ways. So me and Jayne were thinking, how do masks potentially change our inquiry through various forms of questions, processes, etc. So we were especially interested to experiment with you. What do disposable masks do? How do they affect and become affected? How they generate different material discursive practices, and then also how they intervene, relate, and deconstruct our scholarly becomings, especially at the time of COVID.
Yeah, I think that covers it. I mean, I suppose we were thinking really about the materiality and the material discursive. So to bringing those things together about not just what the mask is, but how it contributes, how it disrupts, and how it is Bennett's vital materialism, how it does things to our lives and to therefore our research practices. So then onto the next slide, please, Annika.
So because it's like discursive materialism, I suppose they're thinking about the masks and what they do. You know what I mean?
I like it. I have to think about it.
Are you, Teresa, are you contributing, or are you not on mute? I think somebody's not on mute. Okay, so is this me, Mirka?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So what we wanted to do, given this space and us as a group and what the online world makes possible, was to think about, could we play seriously with the mask as material, and with mask as a doing and as a practice and as a political act. And so what we wanted to do was collectively think about how masks intervene, how they present themselves, and to really mobilize some theoretical concepts, some core theoretical concepts that have been very useful within post-qualitative inquiry. And so the first was to think about deconstruction. So to take apart the mask in a discursive textual sense, and then to move on to more playful doings with the mask later on. So I think if we move on to the next slide. Yes, so what we have, and these are in, wasn't there a slide about deconstruction?
Well, it's yeah, I think it's a little bit later, so we can pull it up first.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so no, go back. So what we thought we would do, could you go back, Annika, please? Yeah. There should be two slides on the
Yeah.
discursive. There should be one from London. There's this one, and then there's one from London.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So what we did was to think about how does the mask materialize in a discursive sense, in a textual sense, in a political sense within our two respective geopolitical contexts. And of course, there are incredible similarities. This is a global pandemic, so we will all have encountered similar sorts of texts that tell us about the significance of the mask, what the mask can do, why it's important, why we must obey the mask. So what we had wanted you to do was to look at these two textual accounts of what we should, how we should engage with the mask that have been issued by official bodies, official institutional sources. So in this case, the London Underground has issued this public textual directive to the population of London on the significance of masks and what should be done with masks and in accordance with mask policy. And then going back a slide, Annika. Yeah, so here, this is Mirka's. Do you want to speak to this?
Yeah,
This
I can say. So yeah, I can say a few words. So this is our institutional mask policy, and I think it's important to kind of remember that this has been revised, or no, that this has been revised multiple times already. So this is the latest mask policy, and it would have been also interesting to see the deconstruction of the policy itself. But we brought you the latest, the more updated versions of these policies.
So yeah, these are very much kind of formal, official, of the moment, right now positions or policy positions that are made textually available to us to undertake certain work. And what we want you to do, or what we intend to do collectively with the aid of Padlet, is to, could you go to the next slide and the next slide, Annika, please? Not that one. Where's the deconstruction slide? Is it there?
Yeah, the last, yeah, it should be.
There it is.
There it is.
Yay!
Yeah.
So yeah, we want to engage in a collective practice of deconstruction. And we're imagining that all of you are in some sense familiar with the method, the philosophy, the practice of deconstructing, particularly deconstructing text, so a critical deconstruction of text. And this quote, I think, is quite helpful. Do you want to speak to this, Mirka?
Yeah, I think that this, drawing from Derrida's work, what we wanted to kind of highlight was what the deconstruction could do and what are some possibilities of the doing. And if you read this through, I think it has a couple of things that we want you to pay attention to. The one is this notion of conventional, unconventional, and how that value that we give to our practice shapes the deconstruction. Then there is the notion of bending, giving things a new bent or twist, and twisting in such a way that essentialism and conventionalism are retreated to release certain unthinkable effects, and especially looking for the openings and giving a place to unforeseen doings in this case, unforeseen functions of the masks and disposable masks. So we want you to take a look at our discursive materials, both the policies from the underground and ASU, and work through the Padlet. And we're going to hear some directions how to go and what to do in the Padlet in terms of the technology, if you're not familiar with. But read those documents and put your ideas and thoughts of how those documents are deconstructing the disposable mask use on the Padlet, and then we go from there.
So on the next slide, we have a series of questions designed to assist you in that. So there's the Padlet information. So has everybody managed to get into Padlet? Speak now if you have not. Okay, Hillary.
I am not yet, but I'm a bit slow with these things anyway, but I'll do my best. I just prefer to listen to you. But I tried, but I can't log in and I have to make a new one. So I'm doing this now, but so don't wait for me.
Yeah, I can't get into Padlet because I'm actually on my phone watching your Zoom. So I do.
Okay.
So I can't actually use my phone to get in. But I'm okay not participating, Jayne and Mirka. Just go ahead without me.
Okay.
You can put some ideas also in the chat.
I can. Yeah. Thanks.
So if we go on to the next slide.
Okay. Oh, could you go back one, Jayne? If you could go back one, apparently Rosanne has just told me that I can actually go on the link and it opens up on my computer.
Okay.
So I'm going to do that now. Padlet. No. Could you put
the link
in the chat?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Don't worry. So you can just go. Oh, you're a star. Thanks, both of you, Annika and Rosanne. Okay, I'm going to do that. Brilliant.
Okay. So shall we?
Thank you.
Continue.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, not at all. It's always a bit of a leap of faith, isn't it, as to whether or not all these. It'd be so much easier with a board on the wall and we could all walk around. But anyhow, so in terms of the discursive deconstruction that we're hoping to engage with collectively, we'd like you to wear your mask. If you haven't been wearing your mask already, could you pop it on now? And having worn it for up to this point, I'm feeling quite suffocated and really quite unpleasant. But anyway, I'll just take a gasp of breath before I continue. So these are intended to be prompts to assist us in this collective exercise to think about deconstructing textual presentations and intertextual kind of ideas about the mask. So have a think about the discourses that are present in the text. So that's the text from the London Underground and the text from Mirka's university. And when you're thinking about those discourses, whose voices are privileged in the text? Whose are absent? Whose are silenced? What is left unsaid? In the text, what are the inconsistencies? What are the impossible connections? And what can be traced from where to where? So having those questions and prompts in mind, have an engage. So we think this would take about 15 minutes. And we can do this together in Padlet. Annika, if you can put Padlet up, I think for us all to view, then we can see it in real time taking shape.
And Annika, one more thing, could you put the slides in the chat so people can review, or those 2 slides at least that have the mask policies?
They're in the Padlet, if it helps.
Correct. Brilliant. Yes, that's right. They are there. That's correct.
They're there, yeah.
Okay.
And are we going to do this in groups? So
We're gonna do it collectively, so let's just start filling in if we can get the Padlet on the screen.
Where do you fill in? Oh, I don't see.
Yeah, I was just about to say thank you, Annika, so that we can read them. That's perfect.
So anyone not familiar with using Padlet, you just use your plus button. I think then you can make comments, and then there's on the three dots at the top, you can like other people's comments, you can heart other people's comments. So it's a, you know, it's a kind of not dissimilar to other sorts of social media. So the bubbles at the bottom, you can add your comments. You can also add images. So there's all sorts of things you can do as you start to populate your deconstructive engagement with these texts.
Also, when you're working now to write these comments, start feeling and get more tuned to the internal, what is happening inside the mask right now. Jayne already kind of hinted towards it, but now I want you to take a second and just be with the mask and see how does that being with the mask is going to change your next response. Jayne, do you think we have enough materials, or should we continue 3 more minutes?
Maybe another couple of minutes.
That sounds good. ready to wrap up?
Yeah, I think so.
Everybody ready?
Mhm.
Then we're going to add to the Padlet the next task. We're not going to discuss these yet. I just saw there were very interesting materials over there. And it was kind of cool. I also noticed not only I was responding to the policies, but each of yours comments that were quite stimulating to think with. So now we're going to do a little bit of material deconstruction of the mask. So as we know, the masks have different layers. So we want you to, can we go back to the slides now?
Although it's right there in the bottom left.
Oh, okay, so that's good. Yes, that's perfectly fine. Yes, that's great. So we want you now to take your mask apart and see what you can discover and how you can potentially generate a different use for it or rearrange the materials to think about the usability of the mask differently. So we'll do another 10 minutes or so, Padlet. So use Padlet as a documentation device when you are processing your material deconstruction of the mask. Any questions?
Just to say, I'm just going to take stop sharing so that we can see each other taking the masks apart, if that's okay, and then everyone can still keep populating.
Sounds good.
So do we want to do that then?
That would be actually fun. Yes. If I'm also going to try to adjust my mask on my camera.
I think we should put our mics on because it'll be interesting to hear each other. But Jayne, are you okay with that? Just hearing people's expressions. I mean, the noises of the masks being torn apart too.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great idea.
Jayne, do you think we are ready to wrap it up with this activity?
How are you still wearing a mask, Mirka, if you've just deconstructed?
Because I wanted to do the whole thing as a double. That's why. All right, should we take a look at our Padlet and what we have in there? So I wonder how we could, there's so much material there. How could we, should we portion it some way or?
Or should we invite people to speak to anything that they see there or anything that they posted there?
Yeah, that's a great idea. We can do that, but what I'm saying that we can't see all the postings. Yeah. So I wonder if there is a view that you can take, kind of like a bird view on that, on all the content. And if that is not possible, maybe you want to just sift around the Padlet. Yes. So what thoughts you have? How was it to deconstruct the mask? What thoughts you had about the process, the outcomes, methodology, inquiry, knowledge?
I think there's some that make you really think differently and open up so many other questions and inquiries. You know, maybe one thing, I mean, I don't know, is perhaps some comments on the ones that you thought, oh, I hadn't thought of that. That's quite sort of quite an unusual or new perspective that takes us in a different direction. I liked Joanne's where she says, where does the face covering go when the transport is over? That was nice. I responded actually to quite a few that Viv has put on because they just really demanded further thoughts, inquiries, questioning.
I think for the sort of one of the recurring issues is, you know, the kind of the contribution that the mask makes to the demise of planet Earth, you know, the kind of preservation of human species, but, you know, the environmental concerns particularly about disposable masks. And I think, you know, I had to really hunt to find one, and Mirka and I had a conversation about, you know, the ethics involved in using disposable masks for this workshop. And I think it is a very real kind of ethical, political consideration. So, and I've noticed that a number of people said, I don't have them, I don't own disposable masks. And I think, you know, that it's worth pondering when we do these kind of material exercises about the politics of the material that we're working with and where it goes after.
Yeah, I mean, you can't go on transport. I mean, I couldn't have arrived here without the surgical ones, right? You can't use the fabric ones, which is in itself, yeah, real sort of issue. And then indeed, if you're in an educational space, You know, how legitimate is it? Even when it raises awareness of the ethics of it, you know, it's a really good point.
Hi, it's Roseanne here. I was also struck by the how difficult it was actually to break the mask apart. I do recycle at home, but and then also what that meant in terms of time, because it slowed down. So if every day I was, you know, it's fine to say I have an ethical, I do actually have an issue, but I'm very hypocritical, obviously, because I do not take the time to break down the other objects I recycle in my home. And so I was thinking that's really interesting how hard it was to break this apart and pull it apart. I mean, you think of what the virus is actually made of. And I was also struck by the color, you know, this use of how medical and surgical becomes blue and white. And then when you think of how the virus has been depicted, it's always this red with these, I mean, I know that's how it's visualized and seen with the little spiky edges. But I was just thinking about how color works with in this materiality. And then I ended up finding some beads on my desk. I always have something close by and making little bags of beads. But yeah, I mean, I know we're not trying to, yeah, so just thinking about that, for me, the main thing was the time and how difficult it was to actually take each layer apart, these layers of protection, undoing them. Thanks.
I can
Yeah, go ahead.
I can follow up on Roseanne because I mean I was surprised how hard it was to cut into it. I mean, like in the feeling of it, I mean, not that it was hard physically, but I felt this, I shouldn't do this. So there was this sort of idea of, you know, and then it's funny because I produce a lot of garbage and all these sort of things, so it's not an issue. But there's also this idea of, you know, when you forgot them and you haven't gone with, suddenly you got this value, not because of the material value, but you know, if you forgot to take them and you get somewhere and suddenly you get stressed because you don't have it, and suddenly has a massive value for you, although it's a kind of a disposable thing. And then cutting into it felt like I cut into something really valuable. So that was I think that actually quite worked. And actually, like, I wasn't able to cut it, you know, just to take it apart. I had to, you know, cut it in a way that I felt I make something creative or something which has a value again, because I wasn't able to just cut it into waste directly, obviously.
It was interesting to me. Two things about this activity was kind of intriguing. Thinking also about methodological repetition. So when we were looking at each, so that was the brilliant thing. Somebody said, I don't remember who it was suggested, that keep your camera on the actual doing. So in a way, when I was taking the mask apart, I saw the multiplicity of the doings parallel to my doing. And that was a very interesting fold and repetition at the same time. And in a way, I think that it put me into this space where the mask was recreated and deconstructed again and again and again and again. And it seemed like somehow it had endless possibilities. So part of that was you guys all doing it at the same time, which was really, really cool. Part of it was that I was still wearing a mask. So I felt the heavy breathing, and I feel the moisture inside the mask. And it was almost like taking apart one mask at the same time when you were wearing it. That created another interesting fold that kept fueling my redoing and reworking of this matter. So in a way, also throughout this process of reworking and refolding, the mask no longer was there. It turned into other things, and that kind of deconstruction in the sense of becoming completely something else was really fun to experience with this material. One thing methodologically, and then I'm gonna let somebody else speak. But if we think about this process, this is how I often think about deconstructing or experimental research. That I do something extremely silly, and this was not necessarily silly, but it could have been a silly activity. And then it turns into something very productive once I let myself get into the process and just not process too much what I'm doing, but just do. Whether it is I'm working with the data or something with the interviews or analysis or redesign or whatever it is, kind of the methodological activity.
I like to say that when kind of following up with other people said maybe a little bit I'm off track, looking at that breaking down, or of course doing it, breaking down a mask, really makes me wonder and feel like we can understand that process in from two different positions, which is one is people who follow the rule and wearing a mask. And also the other side is people who against the mask or protesting in no mask, right? But that process of breaking down way harder than what we expected. It's so tough and then like not easy. But when we just take it off, throw the mask, maybe somebody throw or drop on the street or something, it looks like easy. Just pop up, pop off and on. But in actual, that mask itself so layered, complicated. That means like for people who try to protect from the virus, it's really repetition of reminding people to put the mask again, and like that layer breaking down the mask too, like so many layer of the, like, maybe I don't want to say the practice, but I can't find the words to do it again to remind people to like say same as they layer of the mask, but at the same time for people who against the mask, try to against that rule also not so simple easy. I just the process of the breaking the mask makes me feel like there's two way of understanding, because there's always two or three the different group of people always existing in a certain rule when we have a certain rule, right? But then agree and disagree. So it's that I haven't thought about a breaking mask, breaking down and look at it inside. So it's really provocative and really interesting. Thank you.
Would either of you like to come back to that? Or anybody else, for that matter?
I think, yeah, I mean, I think it is a very provoking and provocative doing that kind of takes us to places that you can't necessarily anticipate. I just keep coming back to this, you know, the kind of moralizing about the disposable mask, because I was just looking around at the comments and you know, the kind of we do that moralizing about, you know, what's right, what's the right thing to do, what's the good and honest thing to do, and just how complex it is, because you know, what this generates, what it does, where it goes, where it's come from, you know, all of those kind of endless questions and provocations from something that is on the one hand designed to save us and to kind of preserve the human species, but at what cost? So I just think, you know, this kind of the doing, getting your hands dirty and wrestling with it, like physically wrestling with it, and then wrestling with it on all these other levels is, and I am feeling so hot now. I'm just absolutely boiling, and I think it's from wearing the mask for such a long time and then becoming agitated by, you know, the kind of whole process, really. So yeah, that wasn't really an answer, but it is, I think it does underline the kind of generative potential of these sorts of doing affective methodologies that are not about seeking solutions or answers or linear lines of inquiry. And I think that, you know, it's not until you start to do this, you can't anticipate in advance, you don't know where it's going to go, and it will work on us long after this session. Yeah, so I feel
What?
provoked too. I'm very, very hot. And look, stuck to my finger.
I just to follow on from there, and some people in the room here as well, they are reading What Flashes Up by it's a text by Karen Barad, and they explicitly refer to deconstruction, but then in brackets construction. And so it's the destruction of the mask, but then at the very same time, it is the construction, and it is it's they just so Barad deflect through Walter Benjamin there, and the notion of historicity, and what you were talking about, Jayne, really reminded me of, and I also put it on the Padlet, the whole thing about, what the historicity of the, not just any, but yours, right? What is the one that you've got in your hand, and that kind of intimacy of knowing the object in its particularity, right? This specific mask, where was it produced, by whom, and what were the material conditions of its production? And you've also written about that, Jayne, and how it's a thing, but it's not a thing, as we know. It's much more than a thing, and how the reading of the mask as a more than is always political, and what is the political there that is not just in the now, and that brings you all the time to the deep complexities that you were talking about, and it's not like, oh, this is right or that's wrong, but the importance to engage with that in any kind of research. And what I find when you do that, imagine if you would, I don't know, your research would be on COVID, or then actually your whole research could be about the mask, right? And tracing a mask, and it would, staying with that, and the deepening of that inquiry would be one that takes you to these very unexpected places. And it was fascinating because I couldn't do mine. I definitely wouldn't want to do it because I've actually bought it together with a dress that it goes with the same fabric. So I'm absolutely not want to rip this one apart, especially I only bought the dress and the mask a couple of days ago. But it was fascinating watching you, and then realizing that really in that doing, the indeed getting hot and bothered and getting affected by it, and the time it takes, and Roseanne was referring to time, and how important it is to take time for that in education, or any, in life. Definitely no easy answers, but if anyone is interested, we're really grappling with this text. Love this text. It's very explosive. We're reading it on a Wednesday afternoon from 4 to 5, in the usual way, very slow reading. So if anyone is interested, and it's about 60 pages, and we're not far in, and even that doesn't matter because we're going bouncing up and down, and from the beginning and to the end, and all of that. Well, not so much to the end, but we definitely so it's also an invitation for people in this room who are not yet part of it. And if you're interested, just get in touch with Annika Slubbard. And also it's actually on the website, isn't it, Annika? It's on the DCD website. Maybe you can put the link up in the. Thank you.
I think it was interesting, Karen, what you were mentioning about the kind of intimate material relationality and the gift that it actually gives us. And once we get into that intimate space where you are really working through not only the matter, but your relationality to the matter, And I think that thinking about that, deconstructing, or that process of creating as a relationality, I think it helps me to not only continuously and fluidly reposition myself, but also think about the questions of ethics and questions of power and all that stuff that are definitely wrapped into this whole event that we just, for example, in this case, experienced.
Thank you. I definitely have given me ideas to do it with my students. Can't wait, actually. I think it will be very powerful with students to do as a provocation, and to exactly get to these kind of very important political points and ethical ones. Yeah. But anyway, anyone else?
I have spoken, but I just thinking about what's sorry. So I'm happy to wait. Somebody else wants to go. Okay, so I'll just go quickly then. But Jayne was talking about something being valuable. So I was thinking about, if you think about school, we were wearing the masks. They actually, and also what Mitzi was talking about, it is so polarizing. There is something to be said, even though we've simplified it in a way to go, oh, vaxxers, anti-vaxxers, masks, no masks. Yet the complexity is weighing us all down into the ground. But the idea about something being valuable and then deconstructing that. So would we let a child in our class deconstruct the pen they were writing with or the book they were writing in? We would have such a, let's use the recycling paper to do that with. And so it's quite an interesting pedagogical move as well as methodologically, deconstructing something that is of value and that this was part of me. It means something to me when it's on my face because it's me as phenomena, as in this is how I'm presenting myself to the world in this particular way. So just to say thank you for that, because that's making me, not think here, about how this is very powerful actually in the doing and what it is we do with in a Zoom room, in a seminar. What is of value in that place? So just thank you.
That made me, what you said, Roseanne, it made me think also about the resetting that happened between the deconstructions for me. So it was interesting to think about that. I kind of reset the relationality again, and that effect that it created. That was kind of interesting.
I can just see in front of me all these classrooms with, pencils that are going to be pulled apart and iPads. Come on, get it all out. What are iPads made of? Anyway, yeah. How are we doing?
So we had one final element, didn't we? Do we have time for that?
We might need to improvise.
Okay.
So should we just go and spend the rest of the time doing the activity and then put some, or what would you, we wanted to take the masks out for a walk. The reconstructed masks. But now we have 5 minutes left.
So maybe what we do is if people can post photos of their deconstructed mask up to the Padlet, if they haven't already, and then maybe take them for a walk after the session. So this carries on after, we say farewell and leave the Zoom, that you take this, whatever shape yours is, form, medium it might be, and take it for a walk.
And also what we could do is we can let it walk into our 3-day seminar in January. So we wanted at some point to finish with that anyway, Jayne, just a reminder of those 3 days and the idea of it, and whether people have got some ideas themselves, but also about these returning webinars themselves. So we need a few minutes for that, if that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Is that okay now?
Yeah.
Okay, okay, great. So we had already some ideas. Oh, fantastic. You're beating me to it, Annika, fantastic. So I've just thoroughly enjoyed this session this afternoon. And yeah, so on top of the one from last time with Roseanne, wow, we're really on a roll here. Now we had one perhaps in January as well. We've got the 3 days. Can we just remind people who are not familiar with those days, Annika, that is from the Wednesday, the Thursday, and the Friday, aren't they? The 26th, the 27th, and the 28th. So please diarize that. And we've got some plans for that already, which I'm just going to quickly look up for you too. But there's just a snag here. I know Siddiq and Franz and Roger were going to do something about virtual reality. I know, Roger, I don't know whether you're still in the room. So now with the shared screen, I'm not quite sure, but you definitely were there. But I know that Franz he's in the process of moving to England. So it's a bit awkward for him to do it. So anyway, we'll get back to you. But what we any ideas that we could actually do this one, pick it up again and see what has happened with the reconstructed masks and where they went for their walks. We could at some point do that. We also have one scheduled for February so it's at the end of February. We just need to confirm the exact date with you, and that is Roseanne and myself and Brandon. So we are returning to the Post-Human Child Manifesto, which actually has just been translated in Farsi. I found out on Telegram. So that is it's one of those other where we just go and talk about how it was produced and what has happened since. Well, not what has happened, but some of the ideas since then. And so we're returning to that. But if any one of you has got some ideas of, you might want to have a conversation with someone else who either has got research that is similar or very dissimilar. The idea is not that you present something very long, but just that we can engage or get to know your research a little bit better and your ideas. And I found the combination of the two of you absolutely fantastic today. Had you ever presented before?
No. No, I don't
Okay.
think I have.
Well, it might be.
We have done experiments together, but
we have,
yeah.
but it's either been you facilitating or me like leading the session. But I don't think we
okay.
Whatever it was we just did.
Well, maybe it's the beginning of something else. It was very, very stimulating and thought-provoking for me. So in the 3-day seminar, so yeah, I just want to officially thank you for that. I know these things always take time, and I'm really, really grateful and that you spend that time with us and in this event. Now, what we also thought is that what Roseanne, I don't know whether you would like to say a little bit, Roseanne, about what we had in mind or you had in mind for what we might do in January, because there are more people who would like to share their experiences of being post-qualitative PhD researchers.
Yeah, Shema, I am aware of time, so I'll take 28 seconds, but just to say, we are hoping to invite some more PhD students, PhD graduates. We've got Veronica Mitchell, actually, who hopefully will be with us in January. Nina Odegaard is one of Jayne's students, and Judy Crowder, one of Karen's students. And then we're hoping to really be inclusive of our friends who live in a totally different time zone, those in Australia and in the East. And so, yeah, we're hoping to start off the 3 days with the people who live on this end of the world, and then end with in the morning session for those who live in New Zealand. So just think about your students if you'd like. And if I could say one last thing, we really enjoyed, those of us met in the last 2 weeks, reading Mirka's paper and Jayne's paper. And to everyone, Jayne's paper on glitter and Mirka's paper on autopsies. It generated a lot of different ways of thinking about, I think the doings of the work. So I would recommend, just suggest that, and just want to say a big thank you to you for today. We really appreciate what this is provoking and enabling us to think with. Thanks.
Yeah, because that's the idea, that we have this sort of webinar at the end. People don't have to present their research, but then there's an opportunity for people in a reading group on the Monday between 4 and 5 South African time to read one article, not more, just one per week. So 2 or 3 weeks, and then there is the kind of webinar. So again, it's an opportunity to get to know each other's research better and to diffract through. So thank you all. Thank you, Annika, in particular, for organizing it, and the presenters. And I hear lots and lots of really positive comments in the chat as well. Thank you, everyone, for attending and being so responsive in your participation. And yeah, have a great day further, especially people on the other side of the pond. And yeah, take care. See you next time. Yes, and take your reconstructed for a walk. Enjoy.